Welcome to the channel and thank you for choosing to watch this video. My name is Jonathan and I work in the offshore global business industry. In this video, we will explore the concept of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, or WMDs, the financing of such proliferation, and what standards have been put in place on the international stage to combat this proliferation. This video will help you as the viewer to gain an insight into the fundamentals of the terminology and meaning and how all aspects thereof could and may tie into the offshore global business sector. Having struggled with the concept originally myself when I first entered the offshore global business industry, I had difficulties understanding the overall meaning of the proliferation of WMDs and how it applied to my profession. I had to first get a good understanding of the definition of the foreword, being the word proliferation. The Cambridge Dictionary defines the word proliferation as, quote, the fact of something increasing a lot and suddenly in number or amount. The Oxford Reference describes nuclear proliferation as being, quote, the spread of nuclear weapons and more generally the spread of nuclear technology and knowledge that might be put to military use. Now that we have a comprehensive understanding of the meaning behind the word proliferation, let's see how the concept of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction is defined by the Financial Action Task Force, commonly referred to as the FATF, which is the global money laundering and terrorist financing watchdog, setting international standards that aim to prevent these illegal activities. It defines the proliferation of WMDs as being the transfer and export of nuclear, chemical, or biological weapons, their means of delivery, and related materials, which includes missiles, rockets, and such related technologies. This proliferation poses significant risks to international peace and security, as these weapons have the potential to cause catastrophic loss of life and immense destruction. While the FATF primarily deals with financial crimes, it recognizes the vital role that the financial system plays in preventing the proliferation of WMDs. As a result, the FATF has established standards and guidelines to prevent the financing of WMD-related activities, which will be discussed in upcoming videos, so make sure to subscribe to the channel. Do not miss out on those. The words weapon of mass destruction, or WMDs, are oftentimes thrown around in various academic papers, news articles, commentaries, and discussions. However, I believe it is important to take note of what actually constitutes WMDs. According to the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs, weapons of mass destruction are defined as, quote, atomic explosive weapons, radioactive material weapons, lethal chemical and biological weapons, and any weapons developed in the future which might have characteristics comparable in destructive effect to those of the atomic bomb or other weapons mentioned above. This definition was affirmed by the United Nations General Assembly in 1977 through Resolution A-RES 3284-B. WMDs represent a category of weaponry that possesses the potential to cause significant destruction in a single instance, resulting in the loss of millions of civilian lives, endangering the natural environment, and fundamentally altering the future of subsequent generations due to their catastrophic effects. These weapons have several distinct characteristics, such as massive destructive effect. WMDs have the capability to produce an enormous destructive impact, capable of causing mass casualties and extensive damage, with the potential to affect millions of people. Chemical hazards. They can cause death or serious harm to individuals through the utilization of toxic or poisonous chemicals. Biological hazards. WMDs can be used to disseminate disease-causing organisms or toxins with the intention to harm or kill humans, animals, or plants. And finally, delivery systems. WMDs can be delivered through various means, including nuclear explosive devices chemical agents, biological agents, or toxin agents. These delivery systems may be employed for hostile purposes or in armed conflicts. The recognition and understanding of the destructive power and potential consequences of WMDs underscore the urgency to prevent their proliferation and to work towards disarmament efforts. International organizations, governments, and stakeholders continue to collaborate on initiatives aimed at preventing the acquisition, development, and use of WMDs in order to safeguard global security and mitigate the devastating impact these weapons can have on humanity and the environment. The FATF defines the financing of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction or proliferation financing as, quote, the act of providing funds or financial services which are used in whole or in part for the manufacture, acquisition, possession, development, export, transshipment, brokering, transport, stockpiling, or use of nuclear, chemical, or biological weapons, and their means of delivery and related materials, including both technologies and dual-use goods used for non-legitimate purposes, in contravention of national laws or, where applicable, international organizations. The proliferation of weapons of mass destruction has implications not only for the financial system, but also for all people and the general population of the world. It is imperative that every jurisdiction prioritize efforts to prevent UN-sanctioned entities and countries, such as prominent examples, Iran and North Korea, from utilizing the financial system to support their endeavors in developing or acquiring WMDs. Several international conventions exist to address the detection and prohibition of proliferation, particularly concerning nuclear materials, such as the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. However, these conventions do not specifically address the financing aspect of proliferation. In 2004, the UN Security Council adopted Resolution 1540, which mandated nation-states to implement various measures to prevent the proliferation of nuclear, chemical, or biological weapons. Subsequently, the Financial Action Task Force began recognizing the threats associated with proliferation financing and its connection to terrorism and terrorism financing in 2007. The interconnection between proliferation and terrorism arises from the potential of proliferation activities to support terrorist acts. Disrupting proliferation financing is therefore crucial for preventing acts of terrorism. Additionally, the practical implementation of proliferation financing often exploits similar channels as those used for terrorist financing. Consequently, measures aimed at disrupting proliferation financing often resemble those employed to counter terrorist financing. To effectively combat proliferation financing, the FATF has outlined a comprehensive set of recommendations that member countries and states should implement. All 40 recommendations will be covered on this channel in upcoming videos, inclusive of the 9 special recommendations. These recommendations require countries to establish robust legal and regulatory frameworks to detect, prevent, and disrupt the financing of WMD proliferation. They also encourage countries to enhance international cooperation and information sharing to counter this threat effectively. Recommendation 7 of the revised 2012 FATF recommendation, which will be fully covered in my upcoming videos, includes measures to be implemented by countries to comply with the United Nations Security Council resolutions concerning the prevention, suppression, and disruption of WMD proliferation and its financing. The requirements of Recommendation 7 align with those of Recommendation 6, which outlines obligations related to the UN Security Council resolutions on terrorist financing. The FATF's approach focuses on improving transparency in financial transactions and strengthening due diligence measures within the global financial system. It calls for the identification and freezing of assets related to WMD proliferation, as well as the implementation of targeted financial sanctions against individuals and entities involved in such activities. Furthermore, the FATF promotes awareness and capacity building efforts to assist member countries in effectively implementing the necessary measures. By addressing the financial aspects of WMD proliferation, the FATF aims to impede the ability of proliferators to access the necessary resources to develop and acquire WMDs. Through its recommendations, the FATF seeks to create a global environment that is hostile to the financing of WMD proliferation, thereby contributing to international peace, security, and stability. It is worth noting that while the FATF plays a crucial role in combating proliferation financing, efforts to prevent this proliferation of WMDs involve a multifaceted approach that includes international treaties, diplomatic negotiations, export controls, and non-proliferation regimes. The FATF's contribution lies specifically in its focus on disrupting the financial networks that sustain WMD's proliferation activity. In conclusion, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction is a significant global concern, and the Financial Action Task Force has recognized the need to address the financing aspect of this threat. Through its standards and recommendations, the FATF seeks to strengthen the global financial system's ability to detect, prevent, and disrupt the financing of WMD proliferation, thereby contributing to international efforts aimed at achieving peace and security. Thank you once again for watching this video until the end. This is immensely and honestly appreciated from my end. If you found the content of this video once again informative, feel free to subscribe to the channel and set yourself the notification bell to not miss out on frequent and insightful content. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers.